Good day. Welcome to Westchester Talk Radio. I'm John Marino, and we are produced by Shark Creative, made possible by Robeson Oil, the house that service built, by Lipolis Electric. Don't be left in the dark. Get Lipolis. By Hightower Westchester, managing your wealth to a fiduciary standard. By White Plains Hospital, and by Michael Labriola, landscape design and construction of Armonk, and by Tompkins Mahopac Bank. We are here on the Cup of Joe political show, joined by Westchester County Legislator Nancy Barr. Nancy Barr represents the 6th District in Westchester, encompassing Harrison, Rye, Brook, Portchester, a good chunk of the Sound Ashore area. Nancy Barr, welcome to Westchester Talk Radio. And were you out biking today by chance?
No, I wasn't. I did not go out on the bike ride.
You had a bike ride that you were part of, working together with over in Yonkers at Tibbetts Brook Park, correct?
Yes. The exciting opening of the
South County Trailways?
Yes, indeed. So I'm sure it was beautiful, and I wish I could have attended. I had some other things going on, but I'm sure it was great.
Yep, I'm sure there was a fantastic turnout, especially in a locale like that over at Tibbetts Brook Park in Yonkers. Now, here we are, and I hate to keep talking COVID for a year and a half, and I wish sometimes we could spend more time on other areas, but that is the main story now. It's the lead story for about 18 months now. I have a feeling it's going to be for a while longer, no doubt about that. Do you think the county has done all it can to deal with the COVID pandemic since day one?
I actually think the county has been handling it really well, John. I think we have, from the beginning, been getting the information out as quickly as possible. And, one of the problems was the information was constantly changing. So you'd get it out and then it was already old news. But I think between the county executive and his staff and our legislators, we really made every effort to get the word out, and then to get testing out, and then vaccines out. And so I think we really have. I think New York in general has done a good job, and I think Westchester in particular has done an excellent job.
You hit the magic word on the head now, vaccines. Vaccines are slowing down throughout Westchester, Hudson Valley, the distribution of vaccines. It's been great. We have more than enough. As for people getting a shot in the arm, that's going down, and you could allude to one thing or another as to why that's going down. Bottom line, and I hate to pose such a flat question like this, but how do we get more people vaccinated?
Great question, and I've been something I've been really concerned about and working on for the last several months, because I represent Portchester, and it's about 70% Hispanic, and that population, for various different reasons, tends to have they had a high count on COVID, and they had a low count on getting vaccinated, and so we were really working hard to come up with ways to increase the vaccinations, and I think it certainly has helped. I think part of it is a lot of people did not have access to technology, to the internet, or to computers, so it was hard for them to make appointments, just for starters. And so there was a real grassroots effort here to help people get appointments, to help to drive people to appointments in some cases. The county and the state worked together to get some very local pop-up vaccine sites here in Portchester. And we continue to work on this. Every week we talk with different organizations that have a population that they particularly service. So we, like the Salvation Army, and we have the Don Bosco Center, and we have some other organizations in the area that that people trust, and they're willing to go to, and they are able to go to get their needs met. So with all of those things in place, we're slowly increasing the numbers, and hope to get to, to
Herd
100.
immunity eventually one day
Yeah,
soon.
yeah, certainly herd immunity. Yes.
You talk about simplifying the vaccine distribution, getting the shots in the arm system. Do we need to go door to door to, if not grab somebody's arm and stick a needle in, sit down with them and talk and really explain the pros and unfortunately the highly stacked cons against you? And I'm not saying you have to stick a vaccine in every arm because you have to. I'm saying that I think it's the right thing to do based on what we've seen. That may vary in certain instances if medically you may not be okay with getting a vaccine or your doctor says for a certain reason you can't get a vaccine. That I understand. But do we need to really sit down with people one by one and educate them about this?
Well, I mean, I think that is something we need to do. I don't know that we need to be knocking on doors, going door to door. I mean, we saw what happened with the census, and I think it's similar. I mean, you want to meet people where they are, where they feel comfortable, make it easy and accessible, and you use that time to explain to them why it's so important, and then stick the needle in the arm.
Are you
So I really think,
concerned?
I'm sorry. I was going to
Yeah,
say,
are you concerned about this rise in COVID right now around Westchester, around the Hudson
absolutely.
Valley?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think I'm not terribly surprised about it. I think that probably we should have kept our masks on inside, I don't
I
think,
agree.
you
Yeah.
know, but that's just based on my own sort of gut feeling. But
Does it lead to the question of did we reopen too fast, maybe 2 months ago?
it's hard to say. I think, like I said, I think certain things probably would have been smart to err on the side of caution. And
Hmm.
like I said, if you're in a place, and I mean, a lot of people do this anyway, they keep their masks on in supermarkets and, other places where they don't really know whether, how many people have been vaccinated or what the situation is. But, I don't know. Probably the advice I would have liked to have seen, the advice has been to everybody keep your masks on when you're inside at least.
How has the county board worked together to make sure that those with a large stake, and we all have our own stake in the county in one way, shape, or form, maybe just anybody with any stake at all, people like small businesses, like renters, like landlords, and the like, to make sure that they were guided through the pandemic as best as possible in order to put them in a spot so they could reemerge as we move towards, we hope, moving towards the end of the pandemic now?
Well, one of the things that we have at our disposal as county legislators is we have an email list for it's not all of our constituents, but all of our constituents that have provided us with that, or provided our predecessor with that. And I'm always trying to grow that list because that's a great way to get information out. And I literally will send out, and certainly during the height of COVID, I was sending out, 3 emails a day on different topics, trying to make sure people, had the information at least about, what was happening, where they could get it. And people have been super appreciative of that. But that, that only goes so far. I also, I try to, I do a lot on Facebook. I don't do all the different social media because I only have one person working for me and you just can't stay on top of
And
all.
that's Debbie Friedman, right?
That's Debbie Friedman.
That's Debbie Friedman. What a job she does for you, no
She
doubt.
does. She's a one-woman wonder,
She's
but
got her hands full. We know that.
even so, right, exactly. And, again, that's a certain audience that you're getting. So you're still trying to get out in person, put flyers out go to food banks and give out flyers, or go to the restaurants and try to talk to people. We did a couple of different webinars. We did I did something where we had a bunch of stakeholders and we talked about the rent, the end of the rent moratorium and what people needed to do in order to apply for assistance. I mean, there is a lot of money available, but you have to know how to access it. And that is the problem, and it's even more of a problem for people who don't speak, English as a first language. So
You've worked closely together with people like State Assemblyman Steve Otis and the State Senator Shelley Mayer.
Absolutely, they're
I'm
great.
impressed by the coordination amongst the three of you through all of this. That took a lot of
Yes,
doing, and it got done.
yes, and it's great. It's great to have them as partners. And I'd say this area really we're very fortunate in Westchester. We have really great cooperation among the legislators, between the legislators and the county executive, and with our state partners and even our federal partners. So it's really government working at its best, I think.
Westchester County Legislator Nancy Barr, 6th District, representing a good portion of the Sound Shore area like Harrison, Portchester, and Rye Brook. And Nancy Barr here on the Cup of Joe political show. Should we continue something that started during the pandemic to help bars, help restaurants to go alcohol, to go cocktails? I walk into a bar or restaurant, I say, give me a mimosa, and I take it out with me, which we couldn't do before. Now, I'm going to give you a big con with this. Let's say I go in and get a hot toddy. And I've used this example before with other representatives and people in government office and people who are connected with government in one way, shape, or form. What's to prevent me from getting in my car with that hot toddy? I get stuck in traffic and I say, by the time I get home, this hot toddy's not going to be so hot anymore. And I start to, and we don't want that to happen.
Yeah. So, I'll be honest, I haven't given it a ton of thought because it's more of a state issue. But it just doesn't seem like a good idea to me. I mean, I get why, that's been allowed during, the COVID. It's just such an exceptional time. And we wanted to be able to keep our businesses, our restaurants in business. But I do think there are too many risks associated with it. I mean, look, people go to a restaurant, they drink and they get in their cars too. I mean, even so, you're not, it's sort of not any different than that. But I think, it's a problem that we haven't solved yet, drinking and driving. And I don't think we want to exacerbate it by making it even easier to pick up, liquor and go. In fact, a lot of states have, these drive-in liquor stores, and you just drive up and again, it's not like we still drive to a liquor store to get it. It's not like we don't, but
it's not like going to a drive-through at Starbucks though when you go to a liquor store. Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't think we need to make it that,
I was speaking to a business representative in Putnam County on our Putnam Talk Radio affiliate, and that business representative said to me, John, comes a point where we have to be able to trust you not to do that.
Yeah. Well, we know a lot of people who say things like that. And unfortunately, it's not just you who would, have to bear the consequences of you getting in the car and drinking and driving. It puts everyone else at risk too. Everybody.
Like we saw this accident in the Hamptons on the weekend where a drunk driver, 5 people were killed, including him.
Exactly. So, I mean, so it's just not good enough to say, we're just going to leave it up to people to use good judgment. And especially when they're drinking, they don't use good judgment.
Schools are getting ready to open again 5-6 weeks down the road. And we know things change day to day, minute to minute, second to second. As things stand right now, do you think we can fully and safely reopen schools in September?
I think what we saw last year is that wasn't, the schools were not the place where it was really spreading. And that's because they were taking, very specific precautions. So I do think that they should open. I do think that they should, continue to follow, all of the rules that kept people safe last year. I don't know, I know there were some schools that were going to have trouble keeping kids 6 feet apart. So I don't know if it has to be 6 feet. I'm not the expert, but I do think, people should be wearing masks. I do think people should, if they are able to be vaccinated, they should be vaccinated. But I do think it's important for the kids to get back to school, especially many of the kids really lost a year. Some were okay, but many lost a year.
Election reform, big issue around the country, especially in southern states like Georgia and Texas. Is there anything we need to do locally to make sure everybody has the right to vote, whether they exercise that right or not? That's up to you. Any kind of election reform we need around here?
Well, I mean, I think that the state has been, the legislature has been doing a lot at the state level to make it easier to vote with adding the early voting, and hopefully soon we'll have the no excuse absentee voting and same day registration. I think all of those things are good ideas because a lot of people are not able to just go out on one day, and get it done for myriad reasons. So I support those kinds of things. At the county level, we need to implement those things. And I think that means having enough sites available, having enough people trained to do to help people with the voting and to man the polls. So I think that's our job. And I think that, well, I say that's our job. It's the Board of Elections' job. And we don't.
Yet you have a role to play with that too.
Yeah, it's a role because we're not the boss of them, and they make that very clear to us. We try to be,
right.
But I think we have really advocated for having lots of communication. Again, the communication is key. And then also, making sure there are enough places to vote and enough well-trained people. So we will keep on that.
Due to COVID, I don't want to go to the polls, let's say. So I want to vote by mail. I forget to make my request. Should I get a ballot anyway in the mail? Should we make sure that everybody has their ballot in the mail, whether or not they remember to ask for it?
I personally don't have a problem with that. I don't know how difficult that is to implement. It doesn't seem like it should be so difficult, but I would have to, I would want to hear what the, pros and cons are.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Let's say, for example, I've never voted before and I decide, you know what, today I'm going to vote. It's election day. And I go to the polls and I say, sign me up. And they say, well, we can't do that. And I say, I have a right to vote, whether or not I show up at 6:01 a.m. after the polls open, or if it's 8:59 p.m. before you shut down. Get me in.
Right.
Can we do that?
I mean, I think I think we should be able to do that. I mean, I think that, it's something that they've called for at the state level. It's something that I think was a change to the state constitution. So I think it's one of those things that has to get passed by a second session of legislators. But again, it all gets down to we have to have the right personnel there to be able to handle it and not like hold the whole line up while that person is registering. You need to have something separate for that person. But I don't see why not. If they can, prove that, give the same thing they'd have to show if they were registering online. Yeah, sure.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Get them in. Yep. Westchester County Legislator Nancy Barr reps the 6th District, which covers areas like Rye Brook, Port Chester, Harrison, good swath of the Sound Shore area, which includes Rye Playland, a hot topic here in the summer of 2021. We have $100 million earmarked for repairs and improvements at Rye Playland. What might $100 million get or buy for us down the road?
Well, so I'll just to be clear, so Playland is in my colleague's district in the 7th District with
next door.
But yes, certainly plenty of people from my district are over there, and
you could walk from the 6th into the 7th over to Rye Playland.
Absolutely,
next door neighbor.
And actually, as chair of Law and Major Contracts, I also had a lot to do with helping to settle the bankruptcy suit that Standard Amusements brought. And so yes, I'm rather familiar with what's happening at Playland. And, it's decades, that money gets us decades worth of repairs that should have been done over the years. I mean,
Decades ago.
decades ago, right, exactly. And unfortunately, it's now a lot worse and a lot more expensive to make those repairs. And they're not exciting repairs that everyone's going to really see, but they're necessary to keep
Right.
the place standing.
They have to be done.
So I think that's, obviously it's very important. And we've approved many different projects there, ranging from, the foundations of some of the structures to renovating the bathhouses and the bathrooms. And, I guess, was it last year? I guess 2 years ago, we invested in a new ride, but I think at this point, that's going to be left to Standard when they come in to, add any additional
Right.
rides.
And you just have to make sure the rides are safe too, most of all.
Absolutely. Nothing is more important, than the safety of.
Now, located smack dab in the middle of your district is the Westchester County Airport. Air travel getting back to normal. How normal is air travel, people going in and out of the county airport? Where are we at with that now?
So, given the fact that Westchester County Airport, as you probably know, is only about 15% commercial airlines, and the rest is what they call general aviation. So that could be corporate, it could be, your average Joe out on a weekend flying his plane, it could be
some sort of private.
some kind of private. So the private flights have been going pretty steadily throughout, even at, the height of the pandemic, there was some of it. The commercial airlines stopped, for about a year, and they've kind of started slowly coming back in. So you can take some commercial flights out of the airport at this point, but it's everything is moving up, and I think we're almost at full capacity on the private side. When at full capacity, I mean, where we were in 2019. So those never really let up, and as usual, we're looking out for, just to make sure that everything there is safe and that the environment is protected. We've had some remediation going on because there were chemicals found at the airport that could pollute the water, the reservoir. So that's something that's been going on for a while now, the remediation of that. And, I just feel it's, my responsibility to be sort of a watchdog there and make sure that we're doing everything we can to keep it safe.
One thing I think many people don't realize are the environmental issues connected with any airport. Go to a place like East Hampton, you want to fly in and out of there? Well, you can do it, but there are those around town in East Hampton that say, shut the airport down or limit how many people can go in and out. Now,
Right.
Westchester is in a much more populated area, the airport, what we have, than East Hampton, for example, and yet there's so much more environmentally that's involved.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think because it's right next to a reservoir, and that reservoir is the drinking water for over 9 million people in New York City and also here in Westchester. So you really can't, I think, you can't be too careful. You've got to really watch all of the activity that's going on there. And I think, a lot of, there are people who clamor for, more. They want more flights. They want, particularly some of the private, the FBOs, the fixed-based operators who were there recently. Millionaire was trying to get a new hangar in. And, the thing that people have to realize about that is, unlike most things where you could say, well, if we have more air travel, we'll have more money to do other things in Westchester. It doesn't work that way with the airport. The money that's made at the airport has to stay at the airport. So it doesn't benefit the majority of us, only those who are, making the money at the airport. So I think it's, when people like to weigh the economic versus the environmental, aspects, they have to keep in mind that economically, there's of course, I'm sure, some gain, but there's certainly not the kind of gain that one would think they would have by increasing the number of flights or the number of airlines that are at the airport. So I always want to make that very clear to people if they don't understand that, and it's really important.
Here we are, second half of 2021. In a few months, you'll sit down to talk about the 2022 county budget. Is there anything that you're looking at right now that may not be in the 2021 budget but should be there in 2022?
I think mostly it's not that it wasn't there at all, but I'd like to see more of our resources go to certain things that I think in the long run can save us money. One of those things we've been talking a lot about in the legislature over the last few years is mandatory representation, attorney representation for people who are being evicted. And that, we sort of had a pilot program going there, and we did put money in the budget last year for a study so that we could see how much money could we ultimately save by preventing people from becoming homeless. Because when they become homeless, they're become our charge, and it's expensive.
Right. And this is the state
we don't want to see people homeless. I mean,
it's a state issue too, correct? This issue
yes,
of homelessness.
Yes.
A lot of what goes on at the county level, I'm not going to say it's dictated by the state, but you have to kind of adjust based upon what the state allows you to do. Yes,
there's definitely some of that. But the fact of the matter is, every landlord pretty much has a lawyer in court and an eviction proceeding, and the individuals in the in the apartments don't. And maybe they should be evicted, maybe they shouldn't, but it shouldn't be for lack of representation, so I think most of us on the legislature feel that way. And so I'd like to see us put more money towards that. And what, we give the money to a not-for-profit, and they're the ones who actually do the representation. But I think that's something that I would like to see. And another thing that I would like to see more of is I'd like to see more money put into programs for mental health. I think that's been a problem for a long time, but COVID just exacerbated it, and I think it would prevent us from having a lot of other problems that we have that are related to that.
Right. And, guns, drugs, gang violence, etc. How do we stem all this? Because it just seems to have, I'm not going to say it cropped up out of nowhere, but with COVID hitting and people not having a lot to do, except maybe, I want to settle a score with this guy, and it goes back and forth forever at that point, may go on for years, the beef between people. How do we reach people now after decades of trying different things?
Right. Well, that's the question, and that's what we need the experts to help us with. And I think, clearly with mental health issues, there has been a stigma forever. And we really need to move past that. We really have to understand that the numbers are so high. One out of 5 people. So, kids even, they get, in elementary school, there is a very high number of kids who suffer from a lot of anxiety. And if it's not treated, not recognized for what it is and treated, then they end up with much bigger problems later on. So I think we just need to overhaul the whole system. We have to make that a part of everything we do, just like we, make childhood vaccines a part of, everything we do, and checkups for other things. I just think we need to be on top of it.
County Legislator Nancy Barr here on Westchester Talk Radio, the Cup of Joe political show. She represents the 6th District, covering a good portion of the Sound Shore area, Rye Brook, Port Chester, Harrison. Nancy Barr, we thank you for joining us here on Westchester Talk Radio. Pleasure, and hope we get to talk again soon.
Thank you so much, Tom. My pleasure.
Thank you. And regards to Debbie. I know she has, like we said, much to do. So
she does. She does.
Keep her busy.
Thank you.
On Westchester Talk Radio, we are made possible by Robeson Oil, the house that service built, also by Lapolis Electric. At Lapolis, don't be left in the dark. Get Lapolis. By Hightower Westchester, managing your wealth to a fiduciary standard. By White Plains Hospital, and by Michael Labriola, landscape design and construction of Armonk, along with Tompkins Mayo Pac Bank. We are produced by Shuck Creative. Catch all of our Westchester, Rockland, Putnam, Dutchess, Orange, and Fairfield County Talk Radio on our YouTube channel. It's Shark Creative YouTube, and we have an app now, Westchester Talk Radio app. Download it, take it with you everywhere. It's called Westchester Talk.